Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to episode number 73, is it? Yes, 73 of Under Construction. I am your host, Ellis, otherwise known as Trainman, and this week we have a pretty major goal. Now, this is the last episode before Christmas, and there's nothing really that special about Christmas, or New Year's for that matter, although we have one more episode before New Year's, but it is a major date, and it's something to shoot for. And previously, I had gotten, I would say I tried to get, but I did succeed in a manner of speaking, the scenery all the way up to the swamp. However, it left a few patches, all the way up to the swamp by Thanksgiving. That's the important part there, because it was a milestone on a major holiday. So, yeah. I had tried to get it all the way to the swamp by Thanksgiving. I did succeed in a manner of speaking, but it isn't all done. We still have some isolated patches. I've been cleaning up the biggest one for the last couple of episodes, as you guys are, I'm sure, aware. Now, okay, so there's a lot of other things that we could be doing. I'm gonna be honest with that. Of course, there are plenty of other things that we could be doing. We could be doing industries and track work over in Mason's Landing. We could be doing, like interlocking tower stuff. I need to work in the route layer. Okay, we could be doing interlocking tower stuff. We could be doing trolley stuff. We could be building Doe Cliff, the town of Doe Cliff. That needs some work. It's going to need some work before we proceed. And, you know, I could be doing grass up along the VMR. There's a million things that I could be doing. I could be doing scenery and industry work in Mason's Landing, or Mason Valley. I think I already said Mason Valley, though. Anyway, there's a lot that we could be doing. I could be straightening signals out, getting them to work right. But this week, I want to get this done. I want to get this shored up. I want to finish these areas that we've been, not neglecting, but that we haven't made it to yet, and I don't want to have them wait any longer, because again, we've almost got a major milestone, and it'd be nice to finish up this area. That way we don't have any other little enclaves of unscenic stuff. At least I think that will make... That'll feel good, I think. Obviously, any of the work that we've done on the route feels pretty good. There's very little that we've done where I go, that isn't worth much. Although, the area that we have been doing is a lot of time spent for an area that people may not even ever look at. But, in my opinion, it had to be done because that area just has to be done. And I wasn't going to leave it as trees. It didn't deserve that. That said, I do need to come up with a nice copy-pastable solution for areas like this, I think. What we've got so far is interesting, but it's not good enough. It's going in a direction, but that direction may not be the best direction. So, in the future, we may have to develop a sort of copy-pastable ground cover, sort of like we do with the trees, in order to patch out these rocky areas like that don't have any trees on them. It's harder because without the trees, then you're looking at the terrain textures, and you kind of want to make them make sense with the way that the ground is. So, yeah, it's harder, but I think we might be able to develop something. I mean, that was my original plan when we started doing this area, and that didn't happen. So, you know, at some point, maybe we will be able to do that. Hopefully next time I attempt it, I don't get totally sidetracked and end up spending several episodes on it. You know, again, I won't call it time wasted, but I will call it time spent inefficiently. So, yeah. And that sounds like something my boss would say anyway. So, before anybody asks, no, I don't have any additional Volvo stories. Actually, everything's pretty much stayed exactly how it has been. I wasn't kidding when I said my mechanic was swamped. He still hasn't gotten to look at my other car, and he's going to be too busy to look at my wagon over, Christmas break. I don't have Christmas break. But my dad and my stepmom, whom I live with, are going on their own little Christmas break. They're heading out to Colorado, and that means I get to borrow their vehicles if need be, because nobody's going to be using them. Which means that I could send my own car to the mechanic, which is what I was planning on doing. I probably mentioned that already, and now I can't, because the mechanic is too busy. So, that's a damn shame. But it's okay, because it's not like I'm in dire need of car repairs. It's really just, it's a frustration. Right now, it's a minor annoyance, really, and not much more. It honestly probably annoys my bosses more than it annoys me. Because I don't mind taking the scenic route sometimes, and I don't have to go to Glastonbury very often at any rate. So, yeah. I feel like I'm fairly competent with working at a distance. Now, that said, my alternative, or my goal, or, what's going to happen, I should say, when that car goes in the repair shop, because now I don't have, I won't have a spare car to fall back on when it finally does go, is that I'm going to have to work from home for a couple of days while he fixes my car. So, I may be waiting for a while. I'll almost definitely be waiting for quite some time while he goes through all of the other cars that he has in his possession, which, are people that probably really need their cars. And also, it's the holiday season. I'm sure people, going places, or sure people are going places and certainly need their cars. So, with that in mind, once the holiday season's over and I no longer have the opportunity to get a backup car, I will be then giving him the car, and I'll have to work from home for a little while. So I'll have to wait until he's very free so that he can get it done as quickly as possible, and give me fewer days where I'm frustrating my boss, or bosses. So, there's nothing wrong with working from home, but you can get a lot more done elsewhere, especially when you have access to things like your printer, your scanner, and other people, other human beings in the office that'll help you with things. Because, I'd like to think that I'm fairly independent. I do a lot of stuff on my own, and I've had to figure my way around a lot of things on my own. But when you're dealing with some of these things where you don't want to be wasting the client's money, or the client's time, I suppose, and by extension their money, you want to be able to ask somebody something, immediately and have them show it to you. If I'm home and everyone else is in the office, or anywhere else for that matter, and I'm asking questions, I might not be able to get the answer that I'm looking for, or the answer might not be able to be explained to me properly. Kids, go to your professor's office hours, just wanted to throw that in there. When people are there for the asking, do the asking. And if you have any questions for me, or comments, or anything at all, you can post them down in the description, or in the description, yeah, do that. Edit my description, hack my account, get in there. But in reality, you can post them in the comments. They can be questions about the route, they can be questions about my life, they can be questions about anything, life, the universe, everything. And I will do my best to answer them. Obviously, there are some things that I probably will do a better job of answering than others. And this isn't a, AMA, although I don't know why it wouldn't be. Whatever, I'm just saying that, this isn't a talk show where you call in and ask random questions about life, although I wouldn't mind them. It's just that I have a very particular set of skills, and those skills really have to do a lot with, a certain subset of questions and not all of the questions ever. Basically, this is just my disclaimer saying, if you ask a question that's kind of out there, I will do my best to answer it, but the answer might be total gibberish. Especially if it's really something out there. Or something scientific. I don't know why you'd be asking me that, but, I'll do my best to answer. I'll probably be wrong. Just don't do biology. I'm terrible. I've always been really bad with that. Not like human biology, because I'd like to think that I'm okay with some bits of human biology, but actual biology like you learn in 11th grade, oh man, I almost failed that class. I was in honors. I was in honors bio, and that was one of the 2 honors classes that I ever took period. Which, with that knowledge in mind, you guys can probably understand how amazed I was to get into RPI. I only took 2 honors classes, and the other one was geometry, and I got a C. And I never took any AP credits. Now, I don't know what the opposite of well, no, not the opposite. So I was looking for this word the other day. if you try so hard and get all the things done, you're an overachiever. You know, you go and you go and you go until you can't go anymore, and you go above and beyond all the time. You're an overachiever. I'm not that. I'm quite lazy and pragmatic when it comes to that sort of thing. If I don't have to do it, I'm probably not going to. And I don't recommend one philosophy or the other, but that's just me. And I was trying to look for a word for that, because, like, being a serial overachiever is something you say, you know, I try to get all the stuff done. And you know me, I'm a serial overachiever, I do this, that, and the other. I was looking for the, like, you know me, I'm a serial procrastinator, although that isn't the right word, but, you know, the one that fits there that's like, yeah, I don't try that hard. That's the word that I'm looking for, is the one that says I don't try that hard. I'm a serial lazy bastard, just doesn't roll off the tongue as well. So, I'm trying to use my gray matter and figure something out. Honestly, if we were German, this would be so much easier, because I bet you that they have a word for it. If not, they have several other words that they can combine into a word for it, because that's how German works. What is this? It's a flamethrower. What does it do? It werfs Flammen. That obviously isn't a real example, but, well, actually it kind of is. But, you know, sort of, I wish I had a good example of this. I really wish I had a good, like, Panzerkampfwagen is like tank fighting vehicle, or armored fighting, you know, kill fighting vehicle, or hunter, you know, that sort of thing. Or hunter is Jaeger, so, like Jagdpanzer would be hunter tank. They merge words together and they make new words by just mushing existing words into one another. Honestly, it's beautiful. And, I mean, this is a thing in other languages. I used Flammenwerfer as an example, which is flamethrower, which in English is very much sort of the same thing. Flamethrower. It throws flames. But there are plenty of other words in German which are just words mashed together to make something that gives you the meaning that you're looking for. And honestly, most of them I'm not even going to try to pronounce. Like, there are things that I know, like I know that's one of them, and I'm not going to try to pronounce it because it's going to come out badly, and then somebody's going to tell Weibold, and then he's going to show up and beat me. Okay, maybe that part's not true. But, you know. Angry Germans, man. You don't want to deal with them. They get angry, they try to take over the world. It's happened twice now. It's funny that, you know, trying to take over the world twice is something that's attributed to the Germans like that. Because the thing, like, if I've understood anything from the Great War, the amazing YouTube show that if you don't know about it, you should check out, even though it's just about over. You know, they wrapped up the war itself. Because they were doing... Okay, just for everyone who doesn't know, The Great War is a show where they were doing 100 years to the day, or to the week, I suppose, after World War I occurred. World War I, in its day, was known as the Great War. And they do an amazing week by week of the entire war from start to finish. And they were releasing it exactly 1 week after it had happened. Which I think was the brilliant part of it, although I didn't watch it until it was all done. I started watching it shortly after Armistice Day on November 11th. Well, you know, after they had produced all of the episodes. So, you know, I'm still catching up. I went through all of the main episodes that covered the war weekly. And then I've been doing all the other ones, the Out of the Trenches, the other stuff, like the special episodes, the ones where they go on location or that sort of thing. It's very, very cool, and I can't recommend enough, especially if you like history or if you like that kind of technology, or if you like guns. They talk a lot about the weapons of World War II, or World War I. I believe they're doing a World War II series now. It's like 85 or 80 years after the fact. Something like that. Anyway. So, yeah, they're doing another series now, but they go into all the political stuff behind the war, And if there's anything I've learned, it's that Germany wasn't really trying to take over the world. That's a gross oversimplification. It's really just kind of a joke because, they tried to do it last time. Also, Italy didn't exactly turn their back on their allies twice, even though that's the joke too, and the French didn't surrender twice. Usually, it tends to be, that if you did something in the Second World War because it so vastly overshadows the First World War, you are bound to... It's assumed that you did the same thing. It's assumed that World War II is like a repeat of World War I. And it's really not. World War I was caused by a lot of really twisted and shifting alliances and, one bad mistake that spiraled out of control. And World War II was caused by Adolf Hitler trying to take over the world. And see, that's still an oversimplification, but it's not nearly as much of an oversimplification. He wasn't trying to take over the whole world, but he was wanting to take over what he cared about. Now, I'm not sure if he really did have plans for, a Nazi planet, I guess. But he definitely wanted to carve out his empire in Central Europe. So, or Western, I guess, is what that is. I don't know where the border lines exactly are between the different areas of Europe. You hear Eastern Europe and you know what to think of, and you hear Western Europe and you know what to think of. But, where does it begin and where does it end? And, if I just drew 3 arbitrary lines, would I sort of get it? Maybe. I don't know. Anyway. Yeah, so Germany was dragged into World War I, and they really didn't want to be, as well. And they were concerned about it becoming exactly the way it was, where they were basically in charge of or responsible for the entirety of their alliance. Again, that's exactly what happened because the Ottomans just weren't very good, and the Austro-Hungarians were honestly kind of incompetent. And I mean that in a general sense, obviously not, I'm not saying Hungarians or Austrians are incompetent or whatever. But they definitely had some incompetent leaders, but then again, who didn't? Anyway. Yeah, so it's really Austria-Hungary's fault, and then everybody else got dragged into it. Anyway. I digress. Check that show out. I was going to springboard off of that onto a couple of other things, but one of the things that I wanted to springboard off of was, hey, about leaving stuff in the comments. We actually have one comment this week. Thank you, Broken Bob 13. He goes, I'll leave a comment so you can see we pay attention. And I appreciate that. I like knowing that people pay attention to the show. Because this is, this is the time where I get to vent, not like I get into these super, personal, I almost said political, but personal things, where I'm like, this person's done me wrong, I'm so upset, this person who did this thing, and I'm, whatever, this is not that show. This is not, the place that I like to stir up drama. In fact, this is a place where I like to come to help sort of sort out drama. Especially drama regarding the Iron Horseman Chronicles, which I got another comment about. And I did leave a kind of long-winded explanation. I apologize to... I don't know who it was. I forget who it was. I glanced at the username, and it did ring a bell, too, which is why I feel extra bad. But it did ring a bell, and I wrote a long-winded comment about it, and now I'm here talking about said comment. So, that's a lesson for you. If you comment on any other video of mine, you're just going to get a written text comment. If you comment on this video, next episode, I'll have read your comment, and you will probably get a nice, fat, long-winded explanation about whatever it is we were talking about. Or, whatever, whenever. Something be together. Yeah, and so I'll be able to talk about the fact that I was recently actually doing some filming for the Iron Horseman Chronicles and some writing, and I wrapped up all of the episodes before the feature in Season 3, which is still a long way off, but they're written now. And that means every script, aside from the narrow gauge scripts, because I'm not in charge of those, every script between now and the Season 3 feature is written. It's good. And that's something that I'm proud of, because that's a lot of writing. Let's see, it's like, I won't say 20 episodes is an overestimation, but it is something close. It's like 17 episodes. At 20 pages a piece is like, well, it's almost 400 pages. But, that's just the way it is. It's a lot of writing, but, and I think most of it came out pretty good. There are still a few things where I'm like, ooh, and I'm going back through and I'm thinking, maybe that could be better. But, and I'll change things here or there. But for the most part, yeah, like I said, I'm pretty happy with what we've come up with. I really like the writing aspect of the show. It's my favorite part, because you get to explore all these relationships and create them and destroy them and, see how characters can develop. It's, sometimes, you dictate how the characters act, but sometimes in Soviet Russia, the characters dictate you. And that's the kind of thing where, the scripts, in a lot of cases, they evolve organically. If you have your characters and they're robust enough and you know how they're going to react in a given situation, you just create that situation, and then you write. And you write, and you just bounce, you bounce from character to character, and you think, oh, this person would say this, and this person would say this. Suddenly, you have developed, a half-decent script for an average day on the Iron Horseman Railroad. Sorry, I've got an itch. And that has definitely happened. Now, some of those we have to get rid of, because you can't just have every script be an average day on the Iron Horseman Railroad, and average day sort of scripts are honestly kind of boring. When we were, way back in the day, when we came up with a lot of the episodes, we have a big fat ideas doc of, ideas for the episodes that are, oh, we should do this, this and this and this and this. And there are a handful of, oh, hey, look, it's Jerry. There are a handful of episodes in there that are like, oh, an average day on the coal line, or whatever like that. And it's, that could be fun to do, but you can't just do that. There has to be something else involved. And a season 1 or 2 episode, I can't remember which, so, we made it, it's in there, is an episode based off of one of those scripts. And it is the one where Cole is running the, it's the one where Cole is running the whatchamacallit by himself. The Lee's line. He's running Lee's line by himself. And did we come out with that? I think we must have. I hope we did. I assume we did. If not, I just spoiled the hell out of it. Not really. But that script is based on one of these, the average day of the engines on Lee's line. So, you've got Cole and Bell and Blount and whatever. And that, it sort of came to be as, okay, yeah, maybe we'll do this episode, but how do we make it good? How do we take this very generic, basic concept and turn it into an episode that's actually worth watching and is entertaining and has, like, a start, a beginning, a beginning, a middle, and an end, like things ought to. That's, that can be surprisingly difficult, especially if you don't have any really good ideas for episodes or, or plot or whatever. So you really, what ends up happening is you take another episode where it's like, oh, these things happen, and you use the first idea as a setting. You say, okay, we'll have these things happen, but we'll have them happen in this setting, so it's like, oh, this is a quote-unquote average day, but it's not really, because these, this thing is happening around the main event, which is just the average day thing. So you have an average day, but overlapping it you have some other thing that makes it not average, some other thing that's throwing a wrench into the works. Oh, the name of the episode is Trojan Odyssey, which has, and now I want to look it up, because I had all this stuff open earlier, because, again, I was doing script work. But either way, Yeah, Trojan Odyssey. I just want to look up and see when it was / is. I think it was a Season 2 episode. That's the zombie train stuff. I've got all my stuff, you could call it neatly organized, but organized on Google Drive, so that everybody can access it, because of course I'm not in this alone with anything. Not the zombie train, not the Iron Horseman. And so when people like Dean and Flegel or Weibold have episode ideas, then they can put them in there. And then we can write them, or they can write them. Dean actually has... not only does Flegel have an upcoming episode in Season 2B, when we get to that, Dean has an upcoming episode, I think it's Season 4. Although that might be bumped up, because it's a half-decent narrow gauge episode, and we don't have too many good narrow gauge scripts right now. So, I've been toying around with the idea of moving that into Season 3, but the issue is, it's a Basil-centric episode, and we do a lot of those, because, I don't know. Because, in the Navy, and then we're gonna have, well, I can't say because that's a spoiler, but needless to say, there's gonna be a lot of Basil-centric stuff, that comes down the pipe for the narrow gauge episodes, just because of his relationships to other characters, and just the way he is and his history and everything. It makes him good fodder for good story. Anyway, something that I would like to do is have another good episode with Eureka and Hercules, because, they are together, but we haven't really explored their relationship very much. That's a bit of a problem when you consider that we don't have a voice actor for Eureka anymore. But anyway. Okay, so let me look over real quick what we've got left. So we had these two, we just filled them in. We've got this spot to do, so let's do this. And then we'll go up there and do those river beds. But this and that are my main priorities right now, because then at least we have almost everything done, and we just have to fill in these sort of riverbed looking areas. And then we're home free. We can do whatever we want. In fact, I'd probably start working over here or something and leave this area be for some time, because it has atoms in it, and I'm still not certain how to tackle atoms. I'd rather do stuff that that I feel able to work on. As much as it's important to, be disciplined, push yourself to get stuff done on your route, especially when you have a mega project like this, it is similarly important to not waffle and not be too wasteful with your time. Obviously, I will have to do that anyway. I will have to go and come up with what's going on at Atoms, but the farther we get, the better things are going to be. The better things are going to feel, I guess, is the right word. Alright, so let's fill this area in. I was checking the flatness of it. Yeah, this area. I'm trying to blot out all the little green spots, because they end up looking a little weird. But on the whole, it isn't really a big deal, because it's just grass or moss and whatever. It'd be everywhere anyway. So yeah, it's not at all a big deal. Alright, so I'm back in my root folder. I'm trying to do this one piece at a time so that I can... Oh, whoops, was it just available at my recents? No. Was it available in... It's going to be available in my recents, I know, because I've changed the thing. Now I'm wasting lots of time. Great, go me. There it is, episode guide. So, yeah, we have a bunch of tools, and the original goal was to release these to the public, so that anyone could write a Horseman script, and then we would look at them and go, oh yeah, this one works. But we ended up not getting that far along with everything, and so it was never really deemed fit for release. Also, they would have contained massive spoilers about, what episodes are coming when. Although I suppose it's not unusual or unexpected for a series to release the titles of its episodes ahead of time. So maybe it wouldn't have been that weird. whatever. Anyway, let me look. So, yes, Trojan Odyssey was episode 11 in season 2. So, we did release that episode. I had a feeling we did, because I remembered, like, recording it and stuff. And the only other one we've recorded and not released, aside from To Rule the World, is A Christmas Cole, which comes after To Rule the World. Again, like I said last episode, I think we've been sitting on that for ages. So, anyway. The other thing that has to come out after To Rule the World is the short story set that would go in the break between seasons. Now, the short story set is all about the world as a whole. It's called the World Tour, as I've probably talked about this before, and it fills in a lot of the gaps and a lot of the questions that people might have. You know, why haven't we really directly referred to the country as the United States? Or, you know, why are we doing this or why are we doing that? You know, why are things the way they are, and why are we beating around the bush with a lot of things? Now, the short answer, because I'll spoil a little bit here, it's not really that much of a spoiler, is obviously the Iron Horseman takes place in an alternate universe to our own, and things are a little bit different. It's not just modern-day United States with talking engines, or 1950s United States with talking engines, vehicles. Also, I noticed that, like, we don't have a lot of talking cars. I'm not sure we've had one yet. So we should do that, because I need to establish, you know, we realize we never, like, told the audience, yeah, they talk, too. You know, pretty much everything does. But, anyway, I digress. This universe, this world that the Iron Horseman inhabits, also is part of the Warships universe, which is something that's been around for a very long time. It's been around for, in a way, it's been around longer than any of the groups. It goes back to some very old Minecraft servers, even before I knew anybody in the Horseman, except for maybe TJ. With Emilio and John and I, and you will know them from old Minecraft videos, we built Warships, and then later that got revived in the form of the Warships server, which was after I had met a number of people like Wybold, Nokio, Jillies, and who was another major player? Well, Coxer was, and Chris was, although you don't know who they are. Necessarily, again, unless you watch a lot of these older videos, although I'm not sure Coxer ever really had a big impact. Now, what was I saying? Yeah, that's right. And we sort of created our own nations. Now, they follow modern, or at least modern at the time, I guess, or whenever we had planned. It was like 20s-ish, or 30s, 1934, I think. They followed those boundaries, but they were our own nations with their own backgrounds and politics and things like that. And one single throwaway line that Wybold put into episode 1 of the Iron Horseman Chronicles when we were writing it together tied the fates of those two universes together and made them unified as one singular universe. And that line is Williams referring to a ship he once knew called the Balltoe. And the Balltoe was Wybold's flagship in Warships, and that's why they're stuck together. Now, I know for certain that he did not intend for that to happen, but I picked up that torch and I ran to the hills with it. And I was like, this is a thing now. So the reason that I had to write this short story set is to get everyone on that footing, so that everyone knows what's going on, what the countries are, and sort of the geopolitics surrounding the Iron Horseman Chronicles. You know, what's going on else in the world. Also, I think it may have one spoiler for a character death. Or not death, I wouldn't call it death. Well, maybe I would. On the Iron Horseman Chronicles, an Iron Horseman character, actually a couple of them, are involved. And though it's past the time of the Iron Horseman Chronicles, it definitely does, or it definitely may say specifically, and it certainly will allude to the event that ended the, well, ended, period, one of the Horseman characters. So, and I did forget about that, and that's, you know, it's going to be kind of a spoiler thrown into another work, but it's really for something that happens more than 10 years after the conclusion of the Iron Horseman Chronicles. So I wouldn't really say it's a spoiler, so to speak, because it's not like we would be revealing that in the show. Well, maybe at the very end when you talk about, you know, and where are they now, so to speak. But, you know, it's, I don't know, it's just the way it is. Anyway. Alright, we got another little area filled in. We're making really good time. How much? 35 minutes in, and I am still pretty full on water. That's a win-win in my book. So, yeah, to come back around to script writing, I put a little bit of work into the Housatonic. Now, here's the thing. So with the serial underachiever, or whatever, procrastinator, whatever you want to call me, I will lollygag at work sometimes. And that lends me that leads to me staying there extra hours because, you know, you got to put in 8 hours of work. So if I am dicking around, I'm not putting in 8 hours of good work, and so then I stay longer so that I make sure I put in 8 hours of good work, and I can mark down on my timesheet, yes, I did this, because you don't, again, want to waste the client's time and money. You don't bill for time where you didn't get anything done. So anyway, I give myself a rule that I can't go on Reddit at work. So, what do I do when I get distracted? Well, the idea was to keep me from getting distracted in the first place. The consequence of it was that when I get distracted, now I get distracted with other things, not Reddit. Which is kind of a win, because Reddit isn't productive. But it's definitely one of those things where you can get lost in it. Now, and I don't like to blame my condition, my disorder for this. I don't like it when that's done in a general sense, because with enough, you know, with enough discipline or whatever, you can overcome almost anything. Of course, learning and executing that is the difficult part. I'm not going to pretend that, oh, let me just will this discipline into existence and beat, you know, whatever, beat my depression or whatever. Even though I will say that getting in the right frame of mind is a big part of beating depression. That's, you know, depression is what keeps you from getting into that right frame of mind. So it's sort of, you know, that, oh, well, cheer up sort of thing. It doesn't help anyone, but if somebody were to have the willpower to do that, then it would solve their problem. It's sort of, it's a weird overlap that is, but that's, you know, that's the way that it is. Anyway. Yeah, so I don't like to fall back on any sort of condition or compulsion or like a, I don't know what you call it. Like a, well, I do this, so therefore this thing that I did in consequence of it is excusable. Or, you know, well, I'm kind of a jerk, so you'll just have to ignore the fact that I did this, that, and the other thing that was really jerky. No, that's not an excuse. Admitting that you are that, you know, a jerk does not absolve you of the sins of being a jerk. In fact, I'd argue that it makes you worse. Saying, I'm sorry, I'm kind of a jerk right now, I'm trying to work on it, that would be different. But, you know, if you go around and say, oh, you know, yeah, well, I'm a jerk, whatever. That's not good. That's not good. If you acknowledge that you are, you should work to fix it, because obviously, it's not a good thing. Now, anyway, that's not really what I'm trying to get to. This is a nice little cove. I'm not sure if I want to keep it that way, but whatever. What's done is done. Actually, let me get some mud. His name is Mud. So So. I don't like to fall back on my ADHD as an excuse for my behavior. However, I do say it from time to time when I'm having an issue with focusing, because that's what it ends up giving you. And I'd like to think that the fact that I can do this for 2 hours a week, which is not much, but the fact that I can do this for 2 hours, sort of speaks to my ability to be disciplined and focused on something. Wow, why is my arm like floppy? I've just been like leaning on it, and I must have like cut off the circulation to it. It's not pins and needles, but it's just like I just picked up my left arm, and it's I don't know why, it feels like it's made of lead. That was totally a distraction. That was not a good example of me being able to defeat ADHD. But anyway, that is why I do get sidetracked sometimes. And while I work to combat it by preventing myself from doing things like going on Reddit, the least I can do is, if I'm ping-ponging back and forth between several things in my mind, is to make sure that those things that I'm going back and forth about are actually at least a little bit worthwhile to be focused on. So, at work then, I have my real work. And if I have 2 assignments, I'm better than if I have 1 assignment. But crap. I need to drink. If I have multiple things that I'm ping-ponging back and forth on, I'll do a better job. And so I ensure that if I am doing that, if I know I'm in that sort of state of mind where I can't focus on one thing, I make sure the other thing that I focus on is at least semi-productive as well. And okay, now we've got to go up the riverbed. Oh, we already did that in 42 minutes. That's pretty good. I'm just going to use this gray, and I'm just going to go up. That's it. It's going to be real simple. And by gray, I mean brown. So the other thing that I tend to focus on is script work, is writing. Whether that be Iron Horseman, which is a pretty easy thing to start doing, or the Housatonic, or whatever. Now see, right now, like I said, I wrapped with all of my script writing for Season 3A, aside from the feature, and aside from any assistance that I'm going to provide on the scripts for the narrow gauge episodes, which there's even one in Season 2B that needs finishing. But, my writing there is done, so now I have to turn to other projects when I'm trying to occupy my brain with writing. And one of those, or the biggest one of those, is the Housatonic, because I would like to finish that. I sort of let it lay by the wayside for a little while because I wasn't sure how to continue, and because I didn't have a whole lot of spare time. But I've been managing my time a little bit more effectively lately, as well as just, in general, being more efficient at work and being able to come home earlier because of it. It makes it possible for me to have more spare time to do things like work on the Iron Horseman Chronicles, and to write and whatnot. So, with that in mind, yeah, I've been working on the Housatonic a little bit more, but it was really just sort of a cursory looking it over and going, okay, what do I need to fix? I didn't get that far into it because, well, I had work to do. Doing the script for the feature in Season 3 is going to be a task, which I'm not prepared to start for a while. Now, I did take kind of a break from writing Horseman scripts for a while there, especially, or in part knowing I was so close to the end, and going, well, if I have a little bit more to do, then, what's the big issue? Why do I have to finish it right now? I've got other things that I need to attend to in my life. And now I've gone back and finished it, and now I'm going, well, now what? And it makes me feel like, yeah, I really should work on Iron Horseman more, because now we have all these scripts, and I can't even really write more in good conscience, knowing that we don't know when we're going to get to the ones that we have. And this is the big thing the whole plan, the whole written out plan, and this is my plan, so I'm not gonna try to drop it on anybody else and say they made me do this. Is to have 10 seasons of the Iron Horseman Chronicles, 4 movies that come afterwards, 4 major motion pictures sort of deal that come afterwards, and then in the middle of those motion pictures start Saturdays at Steamtown. Now, will we be even alive still when that happens? I don't know. That may be because of old age or because of World War III. Again, no idea. But the idea of the series is to span from 1953, which is, when Cole first arrives on the Iron Horseman Railroad, to 1962, which is the date of last steam operations on the Iron Horseman Railroad. So, and then we drop them and we pick them back up in 2003. So 40 years, 40 years after the fact. So, yeah, it's a big deal. It's a lot. Obviously, I know. Are we prepared for this? No. But are we doing it? Yeah, kinda. We're working on it. I won't pretend that it's not a huge endeavor. And it has been from day one. I had no idea what I was getting into, and I was like, are we going to make this series or what? But I'm glad that I did. It's been a great way to stretch my creative legs and do things. And I invite everyone out. I used to say, don't do it. Don't. It's a lot of work. You're going to hate yourself. Just don't do it if you have the idea to do a series like this. I'm changing my tune. Do it. Absolutely do it. It might come out terrible. It might get panned. Whatever. You have to start somewhere if you want to be creative. If you want to be able to write and to produce and to direct and to machinimate and to voice act and to things like that, you've got to start somewhere, and that somewhere is going to be the ground floor, just like everyone else does. I started writing, fan fiction. The Time Travelers Organization, effectively, is fan fiction. Back freshman year of high school, probably a little bit earlier, I started writing Welcome to the TTO. And before that, I would also do some writing, but it never really went anywhere. It never really had like a narrative or anything like that. I just sort of piddled around on my laptop. I don't even remember what I was doing most of the time on my laptop in middle school. But I had it. So there. At any rate, me writing that, I created what I called finished a 100-page novel, fanfiction, whatever. Was it good? No, it was not good. Did it have potential? Yeah, you could say that. You could say it had potential, and that's why I've gone back and rewritten it a couple of times, but I've never really gotten that far because, at some point you realize, well, this is glorified fan fiction. I'm never really going to produce or, publish or produce this or whatever. So this is me, it's writing for fun, which really all of my writing is. But at some point you think, well, maybe I should do this with my own characters. Maybe I should come up with something on my own. And the Iron Horseman Chronicles was the first big attempt at doing something like that, at least for me. Because before, I really didn't do as much as I love it, and, certainly world building is the most fun part of creating, I think, personally. Even though, are these two not attached? No, they are. Weird. Even though world building is the most fun part, I hadn't done a whole lot of it. I'd picked and pulled and borrowed and stolen from every other science fiction series on the planet, but I hadn't gone out and made something of my own. So, the Housatonic is a major milestone for me because it's sort of a real life thing. It's an actual movie script. I I went from writing these crappy fanfiction novels, maybe I won't call them crappy, some of them were alright, some of the stories were okay, to writing the Iron Horseman Chronicles, which has its own characters, its own setting, its own universe, and we developed most of that from scratch, and it's a gay old time. It's great, and that let me sort of figure out how that all works. And the Housatonic now is my first experience with really writing something long form with my own characters, my own setting, and using that 3-act story structure and doing it right. I'm holding off on the feature on the Iron Horseman Chronicles because I don't know if I'm going to do it right now. And I am terrible. I haven't even really read through To Rule the World since I did a first glance proofread of it several years ago when it was first written. And so I'm just going scene by scene, and if something's really wrong, I patch it up on the spot. Mostly because a lot of the voice lines are already recorded for it, and wrangling, those actors and actresses up for 1 or 2 more lines doesn't make a whole lot of sense. So, even though I'd like to see plenty of them, the Iron Horseman Chronicles is a way that I kept in touch with a lot of people that I knew from high school for a while, because I had enlisted them as voice actors, and now that it's gone dormant, pretty much for the time being, at least on the voice acting front, I don't talk to these people anymore, and I feel bad about that. Anyway, except for Ian, still talk to Ian. At any rate, I would like to present to you guys something else that's been bouncing around in my head. I don't intend to put this on paper right now. It's just been there, and ideally it'll stay there because it's a big deal for me. It's a really, really cool kind of setting. Now, what I'm thinking of, again, this is heavily influenced by 2 things that I've been experiencing a lot lately. 2 entertainment properties that I'm experiencing a lot lately. The first one is The Great War, unsurprisingly. The second one is Halo. I've been playing a lot of Halo lately. I've been going through the campaigns, made it through Halo 1 with Madison, and we're going through Halo 2 right now. So, I've been thinking a lot about that kind of tech. And the Great War really made me think of, what, having all these different militaries fighting out this giant conflict, the strategy, and the people in the trenches, in the air, on the battlefield, it really makes it in a lot of ways, and it makes it really interesting and special. And so, part of me started thinking, well, what if I merged the two? What if, and this concept has been explored a little bit before, but I decided to shake it up a little bit. So, picture like a 1920 plus world, and I'm not talking like date, I'm talking about the kind of era. So like a sort of, almost like a Leviathan trilogy, or like a Great War, but with a little bit of steampunk or diesel punk added in. And you'll already understand the setting. It's the middle of this war, there's factions that are vying for control of, territory and people and resources and whatever. They're really going at it. This is modern war. This is total war. And now what if you picked up that whole thing, all the submarine warfare and zeppelins and biplanes and trenches and mortars and artillery and, machine guns and bolt-action rifles and cavalry and all these tactics and generals and everything like that. What if you picked that up and you dropped it on a Halo ring? And that's where, so I went, Halo ring, but I didn't want to be too derivative, I didn't want to just steal the place. So I went, okay, well maybe not a Halo ring. How about a Dyson Sphere? How about a Dyson Sphere? How about if we take a World War I, but of peoples indigenous to this giant, artificial, ancient alien construct that is self-repairing, that has its own ecosystem, that has been around for millions, if not billions of years, and the humans, or human-esque people inside, have no idea that, A, that this is weird, that there are planets out there, or B, that there even is an out there. They are concerned over their terrestrial strife. You know, they may know that they're in a giant bowl, but they may not. Obviously, they can't launch rockets and have them orbit. That'd be a little bit strange. You can't do it. Anyway, well, actually, some people might not know what a Dyson Sphere is. A Dyson Sphere is, so the Earth. Figure you took the Earth, and it orbits around the sun, right? We're not going to debate that. It does, believe it or not. If you don't believe me, you talk to my dude Copernicus. He came up with it. He invented it. He invented the sun. But the Earth revolves around the sun at a set distance. We have a name for that distance. It's 1 astronomical unit because humans are self-centered. So, obviously, the distance from the Earth to the Sun has to be the standard with which we measure everything else in the entire universe. So, 1 astronomical unit. 1 AU. 1 alternate universe, if you're a fanficker. But, okay, we got that done. Let's see. How does that look on the map? You know what? It doesn't look half bad, and I'm probably just going to leave it as is. Although I kind of want to add more depth to it. Like shrubs or something. No, I'll leave it. It's got like the scrub grass. I need to add these shrubs along the edge a little bit more though. Anyway. So, these armies, these peoples, they don't know anything outside of their Dyson Sphere. They don't know or really care about it in the first place. That's their home. You know, humans didn't really care about going to the moon back, back during World War I. We weren't really interested in that crap. Even like large rockets didn't come around until World War II, and even then they were focused on killing people, not escaping the gravity of the planet Earth. So, yeah, that's that. All right, let's. What are we gonna do now? We finished the thing, and we've got half the episode left. Okay, we already did all this grass. I'm waiting for it to load. Give me a second. So we did all this up here. I'm not sure if I want to do this grass like this. Or what? See, I'm using this grass to delineate the edge of... Oh, that's right. That's what we need to do. We need to finish the grass out here. Where's the bit that we neglected? It was somewhere. I know it was. Wasn't it? Where did we forget to do the grass? Oh, was it? It was this. It was this right here. I think. Shrug. Anyway. No. Don't do that. Anyway. So, it could be really, really interesting, and here's why. You have, obviously, the typical World War I story, where you've got all these sides fighting. You're going to probably have, your multiple characters, people in different sides, different perspectives of the war. You're going to have, maybe make it like Game of Thronesy, where it's, you don't know who's going to survive. Somebody might just get killed by shell fire or whatever. And the generals trying to figure out their best, and the infantrymen cursing the generals that are sending them to their deaths. and, you know, the enemies that know nothing but the enemy being the enemy in a lot of cases, and the enemies that know the enemies as being their friends sometimes, you know. Where, you know, it's very tangled. World War I was very tangled. It wasn't straightforward at all. There really weren't bad guys. Nobody was good, but there weren't bad guys. You know, you didn't have the Nazis. You didn't have this, you know, evil... I'll say it. You didn't have this evil group that was trying to take over the world, to come back to that. But anyway, I digress. So, if we're talking about a World War I on this ancient Dyson Sphere, what significance does the Dyson Sphere have? You know, otherwise I'm just writing a cool, like a quasi-steampunk, which all the, like, the improbable steampunky things can be hand-waved away with the idea that, well, clearly it's something that they found here that lets them, you know, be able to do these, you know, all these things. So, you know, what significance does the Dyson Sphere have, other than the fact that, okay, so there's all this technology, there's this ancient alien technology that you know, some factions have got their hands on, whatever. It might take a page from Red versus Blue here, though, and say that, okay, we've got all these installations that are sitting around on this Dyson Sphere. You know, some are the hearts of cities, some are the, you know, some are just out in the countryside, some are, you know, regarded as religious symbols or installations, some are feared by the locals, whatever. You have all these different understandings or different thoughts about what these installations are, and I had a name for them. They were called monuments in this hypothetical series. Yeah, it would be like a book series. There's lots of different theories about what these are. They, you know, people aren't dumb enough to figure, oh, they must be natural. They just came there. But they're wondering, okay, well, where did they come from? You know, who made them? Whatever. But right now, in the middle of wartime, they're wondering, can we use them as a weapon? Because that's what you wonder. And the answer for some of them is yes. And some people definitely know this. And so you get the, you know what, should I add a, I don't know if I should add like a tile back here. I feel like I should. Although that's, man, we'd have to add 2 tiles. I don't want to do that. Alright, let's do some terrain work. Oh, also, all these little green and red pips, that is not, I didn't put them there for Christmas. I just have a butt ton of invisible signals so that the trolleys can run. We do have one trolley running, I mentioned this before, and it goes around this loop here. So it comes in here, it turns this way, it goes down this, it goes by the water side, it goes back to the main road, takes a right and leaves. And that's really how it's going to be. We're going to have the 2 tracks that head up this way, but some trains or some trolleys are going to short turn here. The other thing that I should probably do is build a switch that goes from here back to here, so that trolleys coming from the other direction can short turn as well. Anyway, so let's go over here. Yeah, because once I get this done, I could actually program this train. That'd be weird. Oh, man. So, the thing that I should actually start doing is start thinking about the street grid around here. Although we need to do the terrain over here. We really do. So, first thing I'm going to do is actually, I'm going to bring this out to here. Now, I don't even have a name for this hypothetical series. And I don't feel like I need one, because, again, it's just a hypothetical. If anybody wants to brainstorm with me on it, feel free to hit me up on Skype at bombs321, and we can talk about it there. But, you know, I'm just going to try to think. So, we've got, you know, these factions. And again, just picture it as a World War I sort of thing. You've got you know, you've got people vying for railway control, people trying to hold down areas. You've got areas that are like, you know, that are, you know, all war-torn and destroyed. They've got no man's lands and things like that. And then you've got some areas outside of that that aren't. And you've got some countries that are facing, like, you know, that are staring revolution in the face, maybe. And you've got countries that are, you know, facing crises as the war drags on. So you've got a lot of, you know, there would be time, and what would really take the center stage is all of the political machinations and the war itself. Again, the people in the trenches, the people out of the trenches. So that's what you're doing. That's what the spotlight would be on. So, in essence, it would be like a lot of regular old World War I stories with a little bit of extra steampunk thrown on top. So, yeah, so, you know, so that's that. You know, it'd be as if the war had continued almost. Although, you know, probably before the Russian Revolution sort of thing. You know, having a revolution like that would be a big deal in one of the books. Or in just from one of the perspectives, witnessing that, just to shake things up. So, you know, maybe the smartest course of action would actually be starting from, like, the beginning of the war. But, at any rate, you've got these major factions that are at war, and suddenly, people start unlocking these secrets, scientists start unlocking the secrets of these monuments. And so now they go from being these, you know, cool-looking things that, you know, maybe the locals have tapped into them to provide power, or they've, you know, they've figured out how to get the, I had a name for, like, they're sort of like the Sentinels in Halo. They just, you know, they work to repair the Dyson Sphere and the monuments and things like that of any damage. You know, they've gotten them to work in their favor. You know, maybe they've bargained with them. Maybe there is some sort of sentient thinking life that does the repairs, sort of like the engineers in Halo. That would be really interesting, and they might make a very rare appearance. But you know, because I wouldn't want the series to start focusing on that. So, you know, but in the background, then you have this whole situation with all this ancient technology. So the war is going on in the foreground. You've got all the war stuff going on in the foreground. And in the background, you have everything that has to do with the sphere itself, with the Dyson Sphere, with the, you know, with the situation with the Sentinels. I'll just call them Sentinels for now because I don't have a name for them. And with trying to find a monument that'll be a weapon. You know, maybe there can be a little bit of one of the things that popped into my mind is maybe some of the monuments allow you to teleport to other monuments, almost like a Stargate, but completely contained within the ring itself, or within the ring. You know, this isn't Halo. Within the sphere itself. So, you know, now you've got, you know, maybe an ability to get behind enemy lines or get to an area that's uncontested. Now, that's the other thing. So, a Dyson Sphere is a sphere wrapped around the sun with a radius of 1 astronomical unit, or far enough that you're in the habitable zone, at least. And that would depend on the kind of star, although a lot of Dyson Spheres may have artificial stars, which this one probably would. So, either way, if it's a normal-sized Dyson Sphere, an average-sized Dyson Sphere, because our solar system is pretty average in almost every way, and that's, of course, what we're basing this on, 1 astronomical unit and all, you would have something like, and correct me if I'm wrong here, if my math is way off, but I think I'm lowballing it if anything, something like 300 million times the surface area of the Earth on the inside of a Dyson Sphere. 300 million Earths. Yeah. So, that means, not only could there be other cultures and stuff out there, like way out there, that you might run into using some of these teleport stations, that you may convince to join your side or whatever. They may be literally millions of miles away from your enemies, from anyone. And so now you're starting proxy wars in areas that you can't reach unless you use one of the teleporters. You're receiving supplies and resources from areas that your enemy can't even get to if they don't know where it is, if they don't know what the address is. Again, I'm just sticking with the Stargate analogy here. Then, and this is still just the background. With the war, you have the politics, you have supplies, you have everything like that. And then on top of it, you have all this weird technology. And you're having these World War I style battles in the shadow of these massive looming relics. And across these impossible canyons and caverns and things like that. These phenomena that are completely unlike or improbable to exist on a normal terrestrial planet like ours. So it just adds another degree of epic to it. And it adds more things that can happen. Again, the 1920 plus stuff is really going to be the forefront of it, so it would have to be special in order to sort of make a splash, in order to really be good. But in the same way that, and here I go with this analogy again, but in the same way that Game of Thrones takes your average medieval politics and warfare and throws in some magic and zombies and that sort of thing, this series would take your average World War I politics, scandal, battles, technology, with a little bit extra, and add in this sci-fi background. And, I'm sure if you've watched Game of Thrones, which I did for like 4 or 5 seasons, you remember that at the very beginning, it was very much just this sort of, quasi-medieval political thriller, almost. It got worse, and then there was war, and then there was magic and dragons and that sort of thing, and zombies, and it sort of, those things weren't thrown at you immediately. It just sort of evolved there, and you weren't there for the really weird stuff, you're there for the political stuff. You're there for the Daenerys Targaryen and her bloodline, or you're there to see the Starks regain the throne, or whatever you were in it for, whatever you were interested in, whatever you were hopeful for. You're there to see that limey bastard get beaten up by the giant female knight. Whatever. Again, whatever you're there for. So, let me turn the sensitivity down. I would, if I were to approach this, I were to attempt to write it as, okay, we, started off with, again, if you're going to start with the beginning of the war, he was shot on, blah, blah, blah. Have this hook, and then sort of elaborate on how this whole thing spirals out of control, again, much like World War I did. And, the political machinations, the pleas of certain countries not to go to war, or, people defying country lines, and countries reluctantly starting to fight, and, that sort of thing, where the war machine starts slowly, and you start to see this, you see this build-up, and you get invested in these characters from the very beginning. Again, probably a handful of political ones, a handful of officers, a handful of infantrymen, and a handful of civilians are the ones that, that you see. You obviously wouldn't probably see all of them at the same time or immediately, but that's your cast of characters. So, and then you're getting into this, and then you once in a while mention this the Parliament, which is built around like a star fortress, or is part of this star fortress, which is built around this massive metal spire, and blah 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 blah. That's from ancient times. It's called the Septuan Monument or something like that. And you just throw that in, and you don't really mention much about it. And you mention that later. Okay, the city is under siege, but it was okay because they could generate almost limitless amounts of power by tapping into this monument. And you sort of go, as a reader, you go, I wonder what the monument is. And also, you have to open the book, because it's not Earth, with a map. And you have a map, and you show the monuments, and you show, this, that, and the other. And you have that map change, if not chapter to chapter even, as the lines on the map move from side to side, as, territories get conquered and lost, and cities get destroyed. You get these map updates in the books where it's like, oh, now they've, now this faction has conquered these areas, and this is, this is the big deal for right now. So, it's, you can definitely play it like that. You can definitely have that, and I think that's what you'd need in order to get it right. Just this sort of background rumblings in the beginning of, oh yeah, that makes you think, huh, something isn't right, instead of flaunting it immediately. And I think that's something that Game of Thrones did really well. If it was like, if I had heard about it, like, oh, it's this cool medieval thing, there's magic and dragons and, and zombies and whatever, and there's these supernatural beings and whatever, I'd probably be like, yeah, that sounds great and all. That sounds really cool. And then I wouldn't have watched it. But it being like, oh, it's this, it's this medieval political thriller almost. And you've got these factions that are vying for control. Like, that sounds interesting. It's not surviving off the gimmick. It's making a name for itself because of the content, and because of the nature of that content and the world, not just the, not the technology, but not just the stuff that's in the world. It's about the people and about the about the politics and about that sort of thing. It's whatever. You get what I mean. I'm sure you get what I mean. There's merit to a world being built off of sort of the character and plot, is really what I'm getting at. The character and plot, and not merely surviving because of give me a minute. Not merely surviving because of the cool stuff that they've thrown in. Stargate, if they had relied merely on the fact that Stargate itself is a novel concept, would not have lasted 10 seasons. The Iron Horseman Chronicles, if we were all about just, oh, look, we've got engines that talk, isn't that cool? That's not what the Iron Horseman Chronicles is about. The Iron Horseman Chronicles is about the struggles of those engines day to day. Okay, why would this road do this? This would go straight. Yeah, do that. Now there's your old bridge, and here's your new bridge. And maybe add like a plaza or something there. In fact, I'm going to have this road follow. Now that looks silly, because now those two are really close together. As nice as that might... Whoops. As nice as that might be to have, as much as that would make sense. Okay, so if this was the first road into town... Yeah, so this would come after then. As real as that feels. You would then have this be your coastline road that wraps all around here. I'm still holding shift. I should not be. Let's just snap that. There we go. For now. So yeah. It wouldn't be surviving based off of the gimmicks of... Well, we've got steampunky stuff and Halo-y stuff. It would be surviving off of the... Oh, well, what happens to these guys next? You know, are they really going to be able to recover this artifact or whatever? Okay, so this is probably going to have to stop here then. If I have a road that goes out to there, does that make any sense? I mean, it kind of does. I'm trying to remember how some of these suburban areas were plotted out on just maps of Norwalk that I've been working with, Norwalk, Connecticut. So, let's see, if this goes over here, I wonder if this, so this, whoops, this is not getting up this mountain. Although I probably should have some mountain crossings. Oh, this is what I'll do. I'll have a road that follows the base of the hills here. Because this would be like the short route. Yeah, do that. This would be like the short route around the edge. You know, from... So if... hold on, let me collect my thoughts. So if you're going from this direction, from Doe Cliff to whatever town up here, you're going to want to go to here and then go that way. You know, I'm trying to think of, okay, what's the most efficient? How would this road system have come to be? And then you're probably going to want a road that goes out here. Just for the sake of it. Which one's Main Street? Tempted to put docks out along here and have the houses facing that, sort of like Provincetown. And then, so I said about having the... So we've got river over here. Alright, let me brain. This is what I mean. So, I started into this like thinking about, hey, so if we've got this this map that we're working on, that I'm spending so much time on, all this time on, maybe you guys are figuring, oh man, you just spent 4 episodes on doing that little bit of scenery, that little patch of scenery over there. You know, maybe you're losing it, but I would figure that if I'm in your position, and this is you guys thinking this, maybe. Okay, let me do the thing. There we go. That I would get a little bit burned out. And so, my answer to that is, yeah, I do, a little bit. Although I do make myself come back here and actually do this damn thing. I almost said this damn show, which is not inaccurate, but for the most part I'm just talking about building the route. How am I going to get up this stupid hill? You think I would have just come straight down the valley if that were the case? I could probably just do that. So that's not really what I want to do, because it wouldn't make sense to have the road like that. So which way am I going out of here? Up that way, probably. Yeah. Anyway. So we're going that way now. I'll make this like a dirt road, maybe. Whoops. I'll once again break that. And yeah, I do get a little bit burned out doing, you know, the same sort of thing over and over again, especially something as mind-numbing as just that little grass. But on the whole, it's not a bad thing. It's not really difficult, that's for certain. And the other thing, the thing that's really beneficial about it, is the fact that it can be kind of zen. You know, you sit down and you do that kind of thing, and you don't think about a whole lot, and it lets me just sort of let my thoughts run free and talk, and, you know, do whatever it is that I need to get done. It lets me do more talky, less thinky, as you'll notice when I'm doing something like this, and there's, you know, too much talky, or too much thinky, not enough talky, where I'm working hard. I'm working hard enough that my brain stops working. I'm thinking about, okay, where am I going to put this road? How am I going to build these houses? You know, what am I going to do? How am I going to make this the best that I can make it? And, you know, that question sort of weighs. But, you know, the fact of the matter is, if I'm doing something like, you know, I have this anyway. If I'm doing something like this, I'm much more focused on it, and while it may be a little bit more interesting, I feel like it's not maybe as good of an episode because I didn't talk very much. If I get hung up more often than not, it's not a great episode, because you could watch me do this in silence, you know? I'm here to make chit-chat and talk about what you guys have written me and what I've written and stuff like that. So yeah, that's what I'm figuring. I'm figuring that it's not half bad to do the mindless stuff on camera, but you are here to watch a video just the same. So it really is a toss-up as to what's better. You know, and I could see arguments for either. I definitely wouldn't disagree with either, necessarily. So, we need to put this train station here. And I'm extending that over the road, even though it probably doesn't need to be. So, the thing is, I don't actually know where we're going to store anything in terms of rail yards and whatnot. Actually, part of me really wants to build the yard right about here, and block this road, so then people would end up going around like that, which would definitely happen, because railroads are bastards like that. And yeah, I'm not totally sure what else we need to do. Everything on that side of the river is very industrial. This side is a little bit less so, which is nice. But, oh, here's the other thing. We already have a river crossing over here. I'm not sure we would need one over here, although the river here is going to be kind of small, so I'm not sure it'd be a big deal that we have one. Alternately, I could always build a river crossing here instead of here. But then we don't have anything. I don't know. I'm still thinking about this. This is probably going to come to light a little bit more when we do the terrain over there, which I still need to do. We've got half an hour, so I might. But this area is just as important. No, this area I think came out pretty good in terms of cramming a whole bunch of industries in there. This is the only bit that I'm like, you know, I don't think we really needed that. Because why would this guy be built all the way up here? You could park him down here and it'd be fine. Which I may do. I might move him. But, you know, I don't know. It's kind of a... Maybe I'll have like a road come in from here. This is actually pretty flat. Probably pretty road friendly. They deliver stuff to here. That's why this stupid building's all the way up here. I don't know. I don't know. We've got this warehouse, which we've totally used before, but we're going to use again. This is going to be like the goods shed for the whole town. And obviously, this is a lot of goods. But that's just the way it's going to be. What we might do even is have one big textile complex over here. This guy got a box? He's got a box. We're supposed to have a quayside over here. This thing actually has different stuff on different sides. Wish we had more stuff of yellow brick like that, honestly. So if I park this thing over here, these guys have a lot of open space. Now, here's the thing though. This area does not have a huge railroad presence with facilities and things like that. You've got a station and a small storage yard. And really that's all you've got to play with. And I'm really... what's the word? You know, I've definitely overstated it by having all these things here. But the things that come here it's really just a turn from the other place. And the major things here are passenger related. And also the trolley stuff. The trolley barn belongs over here. So originally as well, I was going to have a rail bus bring people here. So having a full-size passenger train is not really something that I was expecting or planning on or whatever. But the station would be over here in this triangle. And if there was going to be a large railroad facility, it would be here. Now, something that I could do, so this goes up here, is have, like, there was another railroad that connected off of this that runs into the mountains that, that may have had stuff. That may have had, an engine terminal here, or coaches here, or whatever. Something that didn't compete with the Gilson Eastern, just sort of existed alongside it. Maybe they worked together, but the Gilson Eastern was, they didn't need the other railroad, and so the other railroad just sort of withered away, whereas the Gilson Eastern continued on Gilson Easterning because it does, because it has lots of money. So, yeah, that might be what I do, because I'm thinking that this point over here would make a nice location for, like, an old roundhouse and, some yard and stuff like that. The first thing I'm going to do, though, is I'm definitely going to lower this area here to get this river in place so that I know what I'm dealing with. That's too much wide. Oh, whoops. We don't even have water here. There's water here. So, I'll get this in place. There we go. We got some river going on. Pretty flat around here too. This is, we haven't picked up in terms of height too much yet. So, that's not a big issue. The Gilson Eastern doesn't have anything that's really high above sea level. Their attempt at a mountain division was absolutely dismal. So, this is the area we have to play with. Just a spot. And the question is, now, what am I gonna put here? What is it that belongs... What is it that belongs? What is it that belongs in this area if I'm gonna have, like, an abandoned engine terminal or whatever? Maybe with passenger cars lettered for another railroad, and that's what we use here. So... it'd be heading out this way, and so that means... that's pretty much the death knell for this road here that I already mentioned once, getting rid of. So this would have gone, like, straight this way. If there was a bridge here, you would have had pretty much a straight line that way. And maybe I can still evidence that by having, like, a footpath through the yard or something. But the thing is... okay, so here's the other deal. The yard... the end of the yard would be like here. And there's going to be a bridge, so that means I'm going to have to put a bridge here over the river and then have the track stop somewhere. And where is the edge of the tile? Okay, it's all the way over here. That's not a big deal. But that is what's crossing my mind right now. And so if I bring tracks in this direction, that doesn't give us a lot of room before this hypothetical walking path, or whatever, that runs through the yard. Also, that's not about to be the beginning of a ladder. Although, actually, I'll have trains... trains. Yeah. Yep, that's what I meant. Here's what I'll do, and I've seen this kind of setup in some other yards before, and I'm talking real ones, not even like, oh, I saw it on a model railroad once. Which is that, and I think I will leave that building there, because it fits pretty nicely now. Although I'll scooch it over just a little bit. Whoops. Oh, good job. Let's get a dirt road, just for now. I assume this is going to be a dirt road. I was holding shift. Hopefully no vehicles start spawning on that. So. Yeah, I've seen some of these yards, especially in the center of Ys, with relatively short tracks that are all splayed out from a center point. And that might be what I emulate here. I've seen... There's one, for example, if you want to see an example of a real-life one. There's one at the Y that's... where is it? It's in Pittsfield, I think? It's like, going north there would be trackage, but there isn't. But there is like a leftover yard sort of thing there. The issue is getting the switches as close together as they should be in trains. Just remember, the golden rule is always, always, always have a spline point before the switch. Or have a straightened spline before the switch. You have to. Or else it will look bad. Yeah, and they just sort of extend out, like, it's not even sensical a lot of the times. It just splays out like. Or, you know what? You know what? Okay, no, never mind. Hold on. Go back. Rewind. It's rewind time. Get rid of these tracks. Get rid of these tracks. I think we can do this better. Because I've been thinking in reverse. What we should be doing... I'm going to need to scooch this road over. What we should be doing is actually building this from the other end. Why? Why did I not think of that immediately? So, because the issue is... Okay, we've got... Let me move that, please. The issue is we've got this road that's supposed to be going through here, because people would have been going, making a beeline for this bridge. And I'm building a kind of yard that's usually in a really tight spot, like up against a Y. Why not turn this sucker around so that I keep the road that belongs, get rid of the other one, and build the yard in here with a bunch of small tracks like it ought to have. And that is far too long of a switch for this kind of yard. But I'll let it slide this time. And we'll have to fix it in a second. Again, the thing with the ensuring that there's a straightened section before a switch, the biggest thing that gets in the way of is having switches that are really close together. Or switches on curves. Which we're about to have to do. Nope, that did not connect to the piece of track that I clicked on. This one. So we're going to put a spline point in there very carefully, very slowly, subtly, whatever. Way too far over. So we're going to straighten that sucker out. Anyway, was it last week or was it 2 weeks ago? I was harping on about custom origin. So Nathan recently released. That's a pretty tight switch. Nathan, the creator of Rails at War, recently released a series of videos on his YouTube channel showing off the new physics that he's been working on for Rails at War. Okay, now it goes to that one. No. It looks really cool. And ever since I had that discussion with you guys, and by discussion I mean I talked a lot, about custom origin, I've been kicking it around in my head once again because of all the reasons that I stated in the video, why I enjoy the mod, and why I enjoy the concept of the mod. So, I'm not saying that I'm going to make another modded Minecraft server, because previously, while they've been well received initially, the usage of them has dropped off pretty quick, and more importantly, they eventually start getting unstable, and we have to shut them down anyway. So they aren't things that you can permanently keep. I can't even move the stuff onto like the museum map because they are modded. You know, it's all modded stuff. I can't do anything with it. So you know, it makes me go, I don't think I want to do another modded server. But if I were to, and I said this last time, if I were to, it would have custom origin. So it would sort of be like a well, take it or leave it with people that would be wanting another modded server. Oh, this doesn't have a straight section, but it doesn't look half bad. Does this have a straightened section? It looks a little wonky. Anyway, I need to look at like the go by and see if this is turning out half decent. If it's turning out remotely right, or if it's not at all like the realistic version of it, or the real life version. Because the real life version's pretty well, the thing that gets me about this compared to the real life version is this has like all the tracks are pretty much the same length. The other one has like a lot of really short tracks and then a few longer ones, which I guess I can do pretty easily like this. So let me stretch these out to like where it starts to drop off. These guys. And then we'll have these. Maybe we'll have like a building back there. Although what I'm going to do now is I'm actually going to cut these back a little bit so I can snake a service road in there. Yeah. So let me go real quick. I'm going to look on a map. We're going to see. Well, not we, but you guys can look on because I'll tell you where I'm going. You guys can see the go by, and you can tell me what you think. If you think that this is half decent, if you think that you know, I should just tear it down, or if I should turn it around the other way. The warehouse did look really good in the middle. I'll admit that. But at the very least, I have a yard now. Like that's all that I really cared about. I think I'm going to scooch this street over so that I can put in not only just a runaround, but a station. Yeah. Thank you, Google Maps, please. Although I am chewing up Actually, no, I'm doing pretty well in terms of RAM and CPU. Okay. Not half bad all the way out here in Olive, or Mason Valley, I mean. As opposed to Olive, is what I was getting at. So, let's go to Pittsfield. So I'm gonna scroll over to Pittsfield, Mass. This is at the western end of Massachusetts. It's the first stop that the Lakeshore Limited makes in Massachusetts if it's heading to Boston. It's in the Berkshire Hills, Berkshire Mountains, whatever you want to call them. And it is where the eastbound and westbound Lakeshore Limited actually meet. So, there is not much of a yard left here, but it does exist, and it's also facing a river. And it's sort of at the east end of town. You can see there's a river and some solar panels. Yeah, there isn't much left here, just a few sidings with a handful of freight cars, but you can see what I'm getting at, where the tracks are just sort of splayed out, and then some of them sort of run parallel, some of them don't. It is met with a real yard in there, and I'm not sure what they were using this for initially anyway, but this is a yard. Although I think the tracks in this one are really significantly longer, although there are fewer of them. I think I'm going to stretch this guy all the way out to there. And then we'll shimmy something else in there. The other thing is, what you can get away with using these for with a series of straight tracks and stuff in between is you can actually load things in these areas if you wanted to try and get away with that. We do that. Thing is, though, these tracks should be straight. They shouldn't be curved. And they shouldn't do that either. They don't attach at the ends. They aren't curved. They're usually just they're in pairs by the looks of it, for the most part. Yeah, and I'm gonna add one more switch that goes off this way, and we'll put some sort of engine facility over there. Yeah, there we go. Oh, something just crossed my mind. So, Mason Valley was a place on Geiger Mountains. Very tempted to have some abandoned 3-foot around here somewhere. That'd be cool to have. Ooh, a thought just crossed my mind. What? I thought I had a... dual gauge roundhouse. Shama roundhouse. This doesn't have dual gauge, does it? No. It's Chama. It's like a full-size Chama roundhouse. There's a CNR roundhouse, don't need that. Durango roundhouse. That's also just narrow gauge. And this is also just narrow gauge, although that's very, very cute. North Walpole roundhouse, that's the one we use in Olive. Quebec Central Valley Junction roundhouse. That's adorable, I love it. It's not dual gauge. Radford, Ridgeway roundhouse, boiler room, no. This sucker, we've already used this actually, I think. Short line roundhouse. That's not thingy. Standard gauge roundhouse. Okay, it's generic. Very small narrow gauge roundhouse. Everybody knows that thing. I thought I had a dual gauge roundhouse. I have this. Is this Russian? Fix it. I thought this had like a track that wrapped around the outside for a minute. Ivory screws. So I thought I had a dual gauge roundhouse. Maybe I don't. I'm just gonna put that in and see what I get. No, I don't have it. What the heck is this? Interesting. For tunnels, I would assume. Yeah, because I could always have that. But in Geiger Mountains, Mason Valley was where you picked up the logs. And it also had a very specific track arrangement. So, well, maybe I'll do it anyway, but that's maybe it for me this week. No, I've got 4 more minutes, okay. You know, we're good. Well, I do have to put some sort of engine facility here. Let me throw down a roundhouse. Not the Ridgeway roundhouse, not the Radford roundhouse. This thing, this little one, I think I can get away with this. This looks like a Ben Dorsey model or something. So, if we attach this to that, what are we going to do with all these other tracks? Your certificate man is so great. Alright, turn that. I think I'm going to have this cross with the other track. Like so. Not what I meant to do. Yeah, that's interesting enough. And then this one I'm probably just going to dead end, like that. This one just the same. And this one, let's see. Why is such a long track only accessible from the roundhouse? Don't ask questions. No, that's not what I wanted to do. Okay. Like that. Well, there we have it. The other thing I need to do, last but not least, is add our passing runaround track over here. This is also going to cross the road right next to this. It's going to merge in a rather tight switch, actually. I don't like how tight that is. Although, it doesn't have to be. I can actually move this to, like, over here. And that won't really be a problem. Let me get rid of that. Because there are plenty of crossings like that. I just need to scooch these in closer, and then this is still a little close for an end of track, but we'll add some invisible track there to make the AI happy. And we'll find ourselves a station building next time around. Anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and I'll see you next week. Train Man out.